All right, so I'm going to introduce myself again. Like if y'all, I think most of you all heard me talk before. I'm Lori Canada. I'm the STEM specialist. But the reason why I'm in this session and kind of helping out is because I'm a former math teacher. My formal background is in secondary education. I come from a long line of teachers. My mom worked in the school system for 38 years. My mother-in-law is a librarian. And so she works in the school system. I've got cousins that work in the school system. So I think we all have some sort of connection that works in a formal education system. So just so you know that that's a little bit about my background, and I have a passion for the public education system and that formality of it. I have co-presenting with me Cami Green and Erica Williams. They have some great programs and ideas that they have been doing in schools, and things have changed with COVID, and we're going to address that a little bit today of how that looks. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about how to get into schools, some logistics, and kind of walk y'all through a little bit of stuff. So I'm going to turn it over. Cami, since you're unmuted, I'm going to let you go first.
Okie doke. So yeah, when Lori contacted us and was like, "Hey, do you want to talk about your school programs?" I was like, "Well, I can talk about them pre-COVID." So I'm going to share my screen and you guys can let me know. Maybe. Did it pop up?
No, we're not seeing anything.
Well, shucks. Okay, that's okay. It's not a big deal. It's 3 slides, so it's like I didn't want to overload you. So I'll just kind of talk through this because the biggest thing we wanted to do in our session today when Erica and Lori and I talked was to really just open it up for questions for you. But I had some really good school programs prior to COVID. It was great. I kind of had a standard list. Mine were mostly elementary schools, 3rd and 4th grade, that I was in repeatedly. So I was doing 2 to 3 school programs a week because I would do every other week with the schools. But if you were in Sarah Beth's session, she did 6 to 8 lessons a year. That's kind of where we were. But what I would do is I would meet with the teachers in December and we would plan what day of the week, what day of the month. Some of them were monthly, some of them were every other week. They wanted me to come into their classrooms. And then I kind of had a go-to list of lessons, and the teachers, based on their lesson plans, would tell me what order they wanted to do our lessons in. The great thing is communications. So like the teachers would text me in the morning and be like, so yeah, our principal came in this morning and we need to do XYZ. Can we reschedule you? And I'm like, yes, no problem. So just having that flexibility and communication with them was super helpful, to the point where you'll start, if you get in those school programs and you're doing the same lessons with those same teachers year after year, they'll call and be like, hey, Cami, I need a lesson. I need something hands-on for this standard because these kids are not grasping it. So like then I would get to come up with and create a lesson to meet their needs. So that was kind of fun. So the other thing I did is in May, June, I would again sit down with teachers and we would plan the fall semester out. So just kind of doing some prep with them, that was really helpful. Now that we're in COVID, I literally have this many school programs, 0. My schools are like locked down in Faulkner County. I'm not getting any requests or any. I've reached out to them and said, hey, I'm here. Let me know if you need anything. We can do Zooms. We can do, so what I've spent my time on is taking those, my standard lessons that I do, and moving them virtually. So I've, not that I like it, but I've recorded myself teaching those lessons, so that if I do get a request, I'm ready to go. So that's kind of how we've handled that. We did that with we did virtual summer camp that way. We are fixing to host, because I just didn't want to miss out again. We have Farm Roundup, which is a second grade activity for every second grader in Faulkner County. And I didn't want to miss another year with that. We had to cancel last year. So this year, what I'm doing is I polled my teachers and said, hey, y'all are still on COVID lockdown, no school field trips. And they're like, yes, ma'am. I said, what if I videotaped the speakers that would be at Farm Roundup and we virtually brought them to your classroom and you just signed up for a day? The kicker is we need evaluations and demographics from those classes. So what I'm doing is you have to pre-register, give me your, what we call the golden ticket, which is the evaluation tool and the demographics. I'll send you the goodie bags, which is all of our teaching resources that the kids love. And then we'll pick a Zoom day and Zoom in with them. I gave the teachers 2 options. You can have the videos, or I can come in and I can do the Zoom and conduct it for you. So kind of just trying to give them options. The other thing I was going to tell you all about was my grab and go totes, which we've kind of talked about in this in-service already. Those are super helpful so that not only I can use it, but other agents in our office, our 4-H leaders, I can check them out to teachers. But all my totes include the lesson plan, the supplies that should be in that tote, and all the supplies that are non-perishable for that lesson are in there. So I know that was fast, but I know we want to have lots of time for questions. So those are kind of my pre and post COVID.
Do you have a list of what your grab and go totes are?
Yes, I'm working on that. What I can say is there's so many of them, like, but I can try
I mean, not necessarily what's all in them, but just a running list of what you have options available.
Yeah, I have that. I can send that to you, Lori.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Cami?
What exactly is the farm roundup, and what are you doing that?
So Farm Roundup we have been doing for, oh my gosh, almost 15 years. I think I would have to go back and look. But Farm Roundup is 16, when we do it in person, is 16 different sessions. They're 10 minutes a piece. It's an all-day event. So the kids go through and we put a class at each station. So 25 kids at a station approximately is what about a class is. And they learn about agriculture. So on the outside, because we're out at our fairgrounds, in the barn, it's all live animals. And then we connect it into the expo center when they switch and you go from outside to inside. So if you learned about sheep outside, there'll be a wool station inside. When you learned about beef cattle outside, you'll make a leather bracelet on the inside. So there's 6 different stations inside. So it's just a big ag education station, but it's like 200 volunteers. It's a big event. But what I'm going to do now is just do one-on-one videos. So they'll still have that 10-minute station, but I'm going to go out to like Casey Clark's and video her with her pig. And then I already have Dawnette Spam that with the Beef Council. She helped me with my summer virtual camp. So I'm going to use her video to relate the beef cattle to her thing. So I think it'll be really good to have those videos, but I hope that makes sense.
Do you have a list of people that you like kind of do every year with your Farm Roundup?
It's open to every school in the county.
Well, I'm talking about if you're with your volunteers and your stations. Like, do you have stations every year?
We have a committee, a Farm Roundup committee, And so we've changed up the stations a few times, but we pretty much have standard stations. And I do have that list.
Gotcha. Do you typically see the same teachers with different kids?
Uh-huh. So,
So,
we have
like,
a lot of repeats. That was why it was easy for me this year to, like, my teachers that have been there since we started it almost, because it's second graders. So it's second graders every year. That's the cool thing about this virtual thing we're going to do. We're going to offer it to third graders because they missed out last year. And I polled those teachers that were like repeat comers to say, okay, I know you probably can't do in person. Can we do this virtual? How would it work for you guys best? So that was really helpful.
gotcha. Any other questions? All right. Well, then I'm going to turn it over to Erica.
Hey y'all, I am going to share my screen. I have mostly pictures of kids in my school-based programs. So I figured that would be probably better to look at versus staring at me. So let me see and get this started. So all right. So my name is Erica Williams, and I am the 4-H agent in Pulaski County. And so our office is based in Little Rock, and kind of in the same boat as Cammie and some of the rest of you all. We're not really in the schools like we typically would be. So I'll just kind of share the things that I have done with our schools as far as like coordinating and getting on board and really just getting my foot in the door. So the first thing that I would say is, who's your person? Or who are your people? That's what you need to know when you just want to get started. Who is your contact person? Is it the teacher? Is it a counselor? Is it the after school program coordinator? That has been helpful. Oftentimes it has not been the principal for me, just because, you know, typically a principal is doing a lot of admin stuff. So they are not necessarily my contact person for the school, but they always know that I'm coming into school, or they've heard about 4-H, or oftentimes they'll, you know, peek in on the 4-H activity when I'm there. So, you know, that's important. Who's your person? If you're trying to think, well, I don't know anybody, any teachers at this school, you know, a parent with the kid at the school, or maybe, you know, somebody at church that works at the school. Just, you know, who's that person that can be the initial contact to get you in the door or get you connected to somebody at the school that you're wanting to work with. And so I found sometimes it's been school counselors, because they're looking for maybe some other options for their kids, especially if you're trying to do more than just school enrichment and you want to actually establish a club at the school. Maybe they have, you know, art club or a cooking club or things of that nature at their school. And so 4-H club can be another club that they can kind of add on their roster of options for their students. So who's your person? That's the first thing that I typically work on when I'm trying to get into the school. And that's just a picture of some of our students at North Little Rock Middle School. It's so funny because they have a huge space there on their campus they call the farm. They have chickens, they grow a lot of vegetables, and it is really student driven. And so when you go out there, it's not going to be perfect. You're going to see crooked roads, you're going to see benches that they made that are kind of wobbly, you know, but they're so, they take great pride in the farm. They're the person that works with the students. She's there in that blue shirt, that's KJ, and she's awesome. If you ever meet her, you will never forget her. And those kids, they gravitate to her. And so if she's pumped about 4-H, they're pumped about 4-H. And so what's cool about these kids, these are all city kids, but they all show chickens at our state fair. Okay, so doesn't happen a lot in Pulaski County here in the city. With 4-H, just knowing what's in your bag of tricks, what can you offer to kind of make 4-H stand out at this school, whether it's animal science piece, maybe you're big into nutrition education, maybe you like the wildlife things. For me, it's STEM. A lot of our schools, they have, some of them have kind of the supplies to do various things, such as the 3D printers, but a lot of my schools do not. So, or the teachers may not, have their heads necessarily wrapped around that component to be able to share and offer those type of activities to their students. So when they're coming to me, they really are, they know 4-H, for hands-on. So they're really looking at something where they can move away from kind of that I'm the teacher standing in front of my students kind of lecturing model, and really looking for something to engage their students in some type of hands-on form. So my trick is in my bag, and I'm no way trained in science. I don't really have a science background, but I've learned so much, and STEM has been just popular in our county. So that's what's in my bag of tricks. And so I imagine that you all have a passion or something that you like to share, or something that you can really make be known for. And that's the 4-H lady who always does the science stuff, So find what you're good with, and introduce that if you can. If there's like another teacher or the school that just kind of open to any type of topic, do what you like, what you're interested in, what's going to keep you going. Okay, so know that when you're heading into schools. For me, in my county, and just for planning and promotion and career-wise, I'm thinking more than just 4-H school enrichment. Like, I want this to be a 4-H club when I work at the schools. Like, I kind of make a joke out of it. Like, I'm looking for a long-term relationship. So I don't just want to do, 1 or 2 school enrichments a couple of times a year. I actually want it to be a 4-H club. I actually want those kids to be participating in some activities outside outside of classroom time. Sometimes it happens where they, do more things outside of school. Sometimes it doesn't. So, if I had a classroom 4-H club and, it's 25 kids, I might have 8 kids to participate in things outside of school time. Sometimes I have 1, sometimes I have none. It just really depends. But I really try to make it where, it is a 4-H club meeting when I go in. So they get to elect officers and learn the 4-H pledge. They kind of have some roles and responsibility within their 4-H club. I try to get them to do a 4-H project. Some schools, we kind of let the kids pick, and they can go through that project sheet and decide, hey, this is what I'm interested in. Or, depending on the school, we may just have like one focus. Maybe we're just focused, seeing like in my Northland Rock school, and when we first started off with projects, it typically was something animal science related or nutrition or gardening, just because that's what they were doing on campus. But since they've been involved in 4-H, now it's kind of like open. The kids are choosing whatever project they want to, from photography to cooking. So you may have this group of farm kids, but they want to learn about some other things too, other than what they're actually doing at the farm site on campus there. And so this is Seth, one of our kids who did the giant watermelon and pumpkin contest with 4-H. And he was so excited because his watermelon got much bigger than that. But when he got to the state fair, he saw those enormous, bigger than him, pumpkins and watermelons, and that just kind of blew his mind. And several of his club members were at the fair with him when he went to check in his watermelon. So they got to see the other kids from across the state bringing their pumpkins and watermelons in. So that was a good experience for those kids who would have never, known that actually goes on at the fair, or known that they could do that if it wasn't, for 4-H. So I do try to make it more than just school enrichment. So those kids, they get newsletters, they get updates about county events, workshops, summer camps. They know all those things, just like, my community club 4-H members will know. Be flexible and realistic. I think Cammie touched on this for us. Life happens. So you may get that phone call or that email to say, hey, we have a school assembly today. We can't meet. So, just have to roll with it. Communicate. That's the important thing. So kind of like how Kenny mentioned, just kind of having a schedule, sitting down with your person at the school, your volunteer, whoever your contact person is at the school, and scheduling. I know when I was doing in schools a lot, I would try to do kind of like my first week of the month would be the time that I would hop around and go see all of my schools. Yes, for the most part, I do actually physically go and teach the lessons. That's just, work well. I know kind of the 4-H model is the leader does it. Some of my schools, a couple, yeah, but for the most part, they're looking for me. They want to see Erica. They want to see the 4-H agent to deliver that educational lesson. And so I'm happy to do that. It's a win-win. It's during work hours. It's not 7 o'clock at night. I can go into the school and reach those students and enroll them in 4-H. So yes, communicate. That's important. So emails, text messages, phone calls, however your person at the school likes to communicate. Try to be flexible, even if you're not maybe a phone person, but they like for you to pick up the phone, just go for it. I try to always, a week before the meeting, just say, hey, see you all next week. Looking forward to the meeting. Just give me a heads up. Life happens. Sometimes we forget things. It's like, oh, yeah. We have 4-H next week. All right, see you next week. Depending on the leader, KJ Kite, if you ever meet her, she's not all over the place, floating like a butterfly leader. So her mind, sometimes she forgets a lot. So sometimes I text her the day before to be like, don't forget, I'll be there, tomorrow for 4-H club meeting. So it's always great to send out those reminders so that you can be aware, if there are any changes to their schedule or things that will have to be modified or have to be put on hold, for that month. This picture is just one of my 4-H clubs. And so 4-H clubs in schools can look differently. Sometimes it may be during school hours, and sometimes it may be part of that school's after school program. So I've had success with after school programs that are part of the school that meet there on campus immediately after school. Like I had good success with doing 4-H clubs with their students, just because oftentimes it's kind of like the free time, the explore time. So they want to offer 4-H as another opportunity for their kids to learn something new, something different that they wouldn't do typically during the classroom time. And so this gentleman right here, this 4-H club that meets immediately after school on campus, they did at the end of the year, they choose projects, but at the end of the year, they do a big project fair. And it's so cool, and the kids really get into it. They set up displays, they may have tastings, they may be showing off their mini robot that they made. So it's really cool. This fella here, he did kind of like an outdoor adventures hunting project. So he has a display just about, hunting and safety and everything like that. So it's really cool. Every school has been different in how we do it, but overall it's been quite successful. And I get kind of the bulk of my 4-H club numbers from school-based 4-H clubs. And so I will stop sharing so I can see you all's faces. And if you all have any questions for me, I'll answer those now.
Does anybody have any questions for Erica? I think she showcases how in-school clubs can look very different. And I think that there is a very good example of how even such an urban county, right, Pulaski County, can have such, they can have that farm and that growing thing. It's just a matter of making the connections that have that with there. And I will personally say I know KJ, and I know she's a handful. And so she is something else. And if you have not, if you would like to take a field trip to meet KJ, she is worth the trip, I will tell you.
Let me know anytime you're in Pulaski County, you want to go by there. She loves 4-H, she loves us. And so, those kids are great to work with. And definitely, if the leader I have had the times where the teacher is kind of being, an additional, I don't want to say burden, but additional task that they didn't necessarily ask for. And they were given kind of like, oh, you're going to do 4-H. And it was kind of like, that teacher was just like, eh. But when you actually get the teacher that's like super pumped and super excited, that makes it so much better. When it's a teacher that hasn't been voluntold, so to speak, it's somebody that actually is interested and wants to do this and is, good about partnership and making things work. So that it's a win-win for you both, because we want to get something out of it too. The numbers, the interactions, the school days are definitely great for your impact. So we're doing those impact study statements where we're trying to get some good numbers to do some evaluation. School is a good place to get those numbers. And I like Cammie's idea, especially I wrote down, but she was saying virtually, if you're working with schools, kind of like that gold ticket for us to go to green and move further. Like, hey, I need the sign-in sheet up front of all your students. I need this, and that. So that way you're getting something out of it too. It's just not just a doormat thing where you're getting used, but you don't get anything out of it. So I like that idea to be able to get your stuff up front, your sign-ins, your numbers and everything before you actually, go to the school or present virtually.
Awesome. All right. So I think that I am next, I believe, right? So I'm going to share my screen with you guys. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how to get into the school, right? And so, like, we've talked about what it looks like, what it can be, right? There's lots of various ways. I don't know if any of y'all were in the previous session with Sarah Beth. She talked about lots of, she called them education modules. So there's information there about what it might look like, right? So but logistically, how do you even get your foot in the door, right? So that's one of the things that I saw in the chat is that you're having difficulty of getting your foot in the door. So one of the things that I will say, coming from as a teacher working in the background, is you've got to know your school structure. You've got to know, I mean, we know the structure and the aspect of, like, you have your superintendent and you have your district personnel, you've got your different schools that you might have, and then you've got your principal administration that works within that building. You have your teachers, right, within that structure. But also I would take into mind is also look at what does your school need, like that kind of structure. So one thing that I would ask you to do, right, is let's multitask a little bit here. All right, go to this link, and I'm going to pull up over here, and I'm going to paste this link into the chat. That this link here, and what you can do is you can go and you can search schools in your area. Okay, LEA filter. All right, for those of you that may not know school lingo, LEA is the identifying each individual district, right? So in the county that I grew up in Prairie County, there's 3 individual LEA. Well, there used to be, right? Devall's Bluff was one, then Hazen, and then Des Arc, right? Now there's only 2. So you can go there, and I'm going to share my screen here. Are you seeing that website on my page? Yes. Okay. So I'm just going to pick one. I'm just going to pick one at random here, right? So you can see all the different schools that you can look at. You can pick specific ones. I like to look just at the report card. You can look at specific districts, but look at what their schools are. So I'm just going to look at Alma just because that's up here towards the top. And I'm going to look at, first off, I'm just going to look at the district as a whole. All right. I'm going to look at the district as a whole. I can download it and files. I'm just going to click the eyeball, And if I click the eyeball, it's going to pull up a report for me. It's going to show me some things that I can utilize for my program, or for before I even walk into the doors, before I even go knocking, right? I will be able to know some information about the school before going in, right? I will be able to know what the enrollment is, the average class size, the average years of teaching experience. So looking at this, I can see the average class is about 19 years. 19 class size is about average, right? If you're seeing higher numbers than 20, then you know that you can probably guesstimate that your teachers are probably feeling overwhelmed, right? Okay. Alma is a smaller school district, right? Am I being jumpy, or is it just me?
It's a little bit, Lori, but it's not bad.
Okay. I'm going to keep rolling then. I'm going to close out this page here. So maybe that will help. I think I just have too many things going.
Your voice is good on my end. It's just your screen, like your picture of yourself.
Okay. All right, good. All snap. There we go. Maybe it's this website that's messing me up. Looks like. Okay. So Alma School District, right? So if I'm seeing in my head, right, as a teacher, if I'm seeing any higher than a number of 20 on this average class size, I'm gonna automatically assume that the teachers are already probably feeling overwhelmed. They're gonna need some help with classroom management. They're probably struggling to keep their head above water. The next thing I want to see here, average years of teaching experience, 14. These are some older teachers, right? This is not of the norm, right? If I go look at another school district, probably in the Fayetteville area, I would probably look maybe in Jonesboro area that has like more of the larger colleges. You're probably going to see a younger demographic in the teachers, right? There's going to be a higher turnover rate there. You're going to have that number is going to be, so there's going to be less experience there, right? So also know where your teachers are, right? Also, okay, I'm a former teacher, so I'm going to say this. They're probably set in their ways. That's a shocker, right? There's dust on the filing cabinet that they pull their lesson plans out of, that they pull the worksheets out of, right? So you know what kind of teacher that you're working with. So know the demographics that you're working with, not just of your kids, but of also your teachers, right? So when you're walking in, don't say, I have all these cool things that they don't understand. Know how to relate to them, right? Because you got to relate to the kids, but you've also going to have to relate to your teachers. Because if you don't show them how you are helping them, they're not going to invite you in the classroom. Okay? So also you're going to look at the demographics here, right? So you can look at and see what there's 86% white in Alma School District, and you can also see the breakdown in 2 or more races. You can there's 4% Hispanic there, and there's also 2% Native American and 1.5% African American. So you can see the breakdown that you can see that have in the classroom. So you know what to expect walking in the classroom about demographics. And we talked about inclusion yesterday, also about with all reasonable efforts, like, are you reaching the kids that you want to reach? Like if you're trying, so if I'm thinking in that mindset of all reasonable efforts and I want to go market in a school for a program, am I reaching the kids that I need to reach for there? Well, if I'm trying to reach some minority kids, then this is not where I'm gonna need to go, right? So I need to go somewhere else, right? So that's also when you go here. You can look at here, English language learners, low income. You got lots of information. You can look through here, but also look down and you can see, I know this looks like a lot, right? But there's also testing information here. So you can see, I'm trying to see quickly, like there are 3rd grade is a big standard here where they test. And then third grade, like, so they have English, science things here. They can kind of see where they close, ready, exceeding, kind of where they are. And you can kind of look at this as a breakdown to see where are their struggle points. Are they struggling in science? Are they struggling in reading? Are they struggling in math? And then when you get ready to walk into those doors, say, I have materials to supplement what you're trying to teach. I see that you are struggling in science areas. Let me help you help your students. And they're going to be like, oh, thank you so much. Right? They're going to be very thankful because they're probably already like, I've been doing this. I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know how to do this. Right? So look through this and see. So how am I reading this? Like, right. So here we have three different years, 2017 to 18 school year, 18-19 school year, 19-20 school year. So you can see that 19-20 school year has not been put in yet, right? So they're still working on that information, right? And then, so we can see, I like to look at mostly just like the demographic information. You can look at all students if you want to. In need of support, so 9.6% tested were in need of support, but then look, it jumped up, and this is in math, fourth grade math, it jumped up to 11.74 needed help, right? Whereas 61% were ready in 2017, 2018, but it dropped to 57% in 2018. So their numbers are dropping in fourth grade math here. So you kind of see how that line goes. So let's look at fourth grade English language learners, right? In need of support, 36. In need of support the next year bumped up to 40%. They were 42% were ready, but only 38% were ready this year. So they are struggling in reading, right? So this is available for every single school district that is out there. You can even have a breakdown in per school, okay? So not just district, but you can look at it per school. So I encourage you to look at your schools in your county, and so you know what are they struggling in? What do they need help with? What kind of teachers are you working with? Okay. So then that way you have some information that you've got, right? So there's lots, like I'm just barely hitting the mark here, right? There's lots of information. You can kind of keep scrolling down. You can get overwhelmed with all this information. But I was just wanted to do a quick little snapshot of like it's just lots and lots of data, right? You can jump down here, college readiness, like right? If we scroll down here to college readiness. Participation in 11th grade administration, there's 22 of them, or 229 of them, right? And so at ACT reading average, you can kind of see what their averages are. Composite average for the district over the last year, for the state, for their district was 20, but the state was 19. So for the ACT, they're a little bit high. Okay. So I will say, take a look at this website and look at where you've got in your school areas, right? So again, see what their needs are. Okay. Look and see what your demographics are. What kind of teachers are you dealing with? See what your needs for your school are. Also, look at what businesses are in your area, okay? Are your kids coming back to live there, right? What businesses are there for them to come back to? Are your schools training them to be prosperous in your area? So can you provide some things there, some supplemental things to kind of help them in for the business owners? This is kind of like a supplementary thing. It can kind of help with this. It can also help with like the community clubs, those part of those life skills that 4-H teaches, right? But then also just talking to them. I am a big conversation person. I like to talk. I think you'll know that about me, right? I like to have a conversation with you. Someone always asks me, well, I need a software that whatever. So, well, let me talk to you about it. What do you want? What do you need? Right? I want to talk to you and see what your needs are, and that way I can provide you, right? This is what we have. This is what we have for a conversation, so that way you can listen to them and they can tell you what they need help with, right? So have a conversation with them. All right. So next thing is who do you know at the school, right? It's all about who do you know, right? It's all about who do you know. So I want you to get a piece of paper. It can be a sticky note, right? It can be a sticky note. It can be a note on your phone. It can something, right? Grab out a sticky note. You can pull up a document on your computer. It doesn't matter. I want you to start jotting some names down. What are your working relationships right now? Within any kind, but that's of anybody that might have any education in your county. Go ahead and write those names down. Someone remind me, what time is the session over? 11:15 or 11:30? 11:15. I got 1 minute. Okay, great. All right. Next thing, community. Who do you know around in your community? Where I grew up, it might think about your church. It might be who do you bump into at the grocery store. It might be who is your the bank president's wife. It might be a spouse of somebody, or somebody's aunt, or somebody's uncle. It might be a friend of a friend that teaches 3rd grade. Might be someone that's on the school board. It might be the janitor. Who do you know? It's around the community that you might see. And lastly, I want to encourage you to go look at their websites. Look up their superintendent's name. Always reach out to them. Make sure that you keep the administration in the loop. Superintendent probably won't, especially in larger school districts, probably won't respond. Okay. But principals, keep them just so they're aware of who's in the building. Curriculum specialists, and don't forget your support staff. Okay. And set up the meeting times, right? If you're meeting with an administrator, make sure you know make sure that you're working with what the goals of the school or goals of the district are going to be, right? That's what you're talking with them. Like, what direction do you want to take the school? I want to raise science. I want to raise the science. They're looking at test scores, okay? Teachers are wanting to meet the standards, okay? Teachers are wanting to meet the standards and support staff. So, Cami, I think, are you the one that's putting that in there about coaches with the yoga? Yes. Teaming with other people in the office? Yes. Right? Also put in there, don't forget about your librarians and media specialists. They have lots of connections as well. My mother-in-law is a media specialist, librarian. She goes like, and she has connections with every teacher in that building. So she is a gatekeeper for all of the teachers. So find those gatekeepers, right? So if you don't know where to start, a counselor may also be a good gatekeeper.
Yeah,
for that.
counselors especially, just one, because they have, we hear guidance counselors, but they're typically the people responsible for testing. So they know how their school is ranked, what they're for. And I saw those in the chat, like I can't even get in. Cold calls. Find their email, just, hey, my name is Erica. This is what I offer. See the attachment. I would love to meet with you. Phone call, in person, virtually now. And we can have a one-on-one and just kind of discuss what I can offer and what your school needs are. Cold calls. Sometimes you just have to do that. I was in that situation too. I didn't know anybody, not from Little Rock. So I just started there.
Yeah. Yes. Cold calls, as much as that like makes me cringe, I gotta put my big girl britches
Cold
on.
email. There you go. Cold email.
Yeah, cold email. Yeah. Yeah. But sometimes it just takes a follow-up, send an email and then follow up with a phone call, right? And especially if you don't get a response type situation. But I just gotta put my big girl britches on and then just do it, because it may turn out to be very beneficial. But yeah, don't forget those support staff, because those a lot of times are your gatekeepers, right? That allow you to be able to get in there, like those guidance counselors. I think the guidance counselors and your librarians, if you cold call anybody, those two people probably will be your first two people that I would call. Would y'all agree with that, Erica, Kami? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
If you don't know anybody in the school district or in this school, I would pick those two people first and try to build a relationship with them, because they have a connection with everybody. Does anybody have any questions or anything that they do or anything that I think that's all my slides.
Not everyone is willing to share their personal cell phone numbers, but I've always done that with my, especially my school teachers, because it's really, really nice to know the day before, even if it's the night before or the morning of, if they have to cancel. And there've been a lot of times, I know what I'm going to be doing the next morning. I wake up, look at my phone. I have a text from, the coach saying, oh, hey, we can't do yoga today. They're using the gym. But it's really nice to know that before I come and load up, 20,000 yoga mats to head over there. So that would be a tip. If you don't mind sharing that, that's good. And then that's a real good way to keep in touch with them. Like Erica mentioned, sending them that reminder, hey, see you tomorrow. Or
and if you don't want to share your phone number, everybody, Google Voice. That's free. It's a free app, and it gives you a new number. It comes directly to your phone. So they don't get your real number. Use Google Voice, and you're assigned a number. You can pick out your fake phone number, but you'll get all the text messages. You get all the phone calls. They'll come directly to your call. The cool thing is about Google Voice, you can put it on Do Not Disturb. So when you're done with work, press that button. You don't get those messages or voicemails until you turn it on the next day. So I like Google Voice for that reason.
Any other comments or suggestions or anything? I know Miss Pia's got some great in school programs too, as well, down there in Jefferson County.
I know something that's helped too, because I've been in two counties where I didn't know anybody when I moved there, was which is it's silly on my own part, but get the people you like, EHC ladies, for instance, maybe drop hints like, I'm trying to get into the schools and I'm really having some issues, or 4-H, or your committees, like help. They're the leaders in the county. They can help get you into those contacts. I even talked to my Farm Bureau agent one time, and he was like, well, I know somebody in the school. I'll send your school program sheet to them. And I mean, it didn't necessarily, COVID happened right after that, but still, those are some times that rely on who you do know and just drop those hints, and they can help maybe get you in to the schools and different stuff like that.
One of my
Rachel's-
best connections has been through 4-H parents. I'll mention, tell their teachers that we can do 4-H in their classrooms too. And when those parents back you, that's really, really helpful. And I can say probably at least 50% of my ends in school has been through 4-H parents.
Yeah, that's a very good point for both of y'all to make, is that making those connections with where you're already working, right? Where, that was my starting part. Who are you already working with, right? Those Farm Bureau agents, your EHC council members, your foundation board, right? Do you have a foundation or a 4-H council that's in your county? Ask them, do they have any connections into the school that you are trying to get in there, right? Also, I will tell you, I will help you use my resources. I am my former job, it was with East Initiative. Y'all all probably know that. If you have an East Initiative, an East program, you may know it as East Lab in your schools, reach out to that East facilitator. You are more than welcome to use my name if you want to and say, Lori Canada said to reach out to you. If they, and just say, hey, I'm just trying to get in, let me know and I will help you. I've got lots of connections in districts across the state. I don't have them in every district, but I have some in a lot of them. So let me know. I've done teacher trainings for 5 years prior to coming to 4-H. So if you're struggling, let me know and I'll see if I can get somebody in your area. All right. Yeah, FACS teachers are a big help. All right. I'm getting messages from the other group that I've got to go open the closing session, which means I have to end this one so I can go open the closing. So I appreciate everybody coming. We will be getting these resources into our in-service folder. So thanks everybody, and hop over to the closing session. We're going to give away prizes.
Good job, ladies.
Educational materials. Sorry.